Season 2, Episode 65, A One Man's Opinion. Today I am reviewing BEDLAM's production of Fall River Fishing, a brand new comedy written by Zuzanna Szadkowski and Deb Knox, directed by Eric Tucker and running through March 9th at the Connolly Theater at 220 East 4th Street in New York City. Fall River Fishing is an absurdly comic interpretation of the murders in Fall River, Massachusetts, where Lizzie Borden was accused, tried, and acquitted on charges of murdering her father and stepmother. If you don't know who Lizzie Borden is, or what happened at the Borden home in Fall River during the late morning of August 4th, 1892, someone took a hatchet and murdered Lizzie's father, Andrew, and her stepmother, Abby. Lizzie was charged with the murders, but was acquitted of the charges in a trial about 10 months later. There were two other people in the house at or near the time of the murders, the Borden house servant, Bridget Maggie Sullivan, and Lizzie's uncle, John Vinicum Morse. No one was ever convicted of the murders. Though much of the story, particularly in the first act, isn't too far from the truth, Szadkowski and Knox do play hard and fast with the facts, throwing absurdist anachronisms into the dialogue and building up the drama into a zany, bloodthirsty first act finale. The costumes are period, but the dialogue and metaphorical references are modern. It's kind of a cheat for humor, but I didn't mind it too much, though at one point when Abby jokingly says she killed Lizzie's biological mother with AIDS, I responded with a much louder than intended, "What?" That was surely heard by the audience and cast. I'll admit I laughed through the ridiculous humor of the piece, but I also recognized that this isn't going to be for everybody. The characters all have about as much sympathy owed to them as most characters from a David Mamet or Tracy Letts piece. The one remotely redeeming character is Abby's uncle, who in this piece is named Nathan instead of John. Jamie Smithson plays the character with such pathetic sweetness that you almost pity him in spite of the fact that he is secretly lusting for his niece. Like I said, no one in a play, specifically in the first act, is exactly likable. Some people may argue that Bridget, played by Knox, is sympathetic, well, at least until the latter end of the first act, as there is a romance between her and Lizzie being played by Szadkowski. It's sweet at times, but Szadkowski's Lizzie is such a cold, unloving human being who abuses Bridget as much as she shows affection. It's no wonder why the first act reaches the climax that it does. There is a second act to Fall River Fishing, though Lord knows why. It is set in what appears to be sometime between the 1950s and the 1970s, based on the overall design, but its wear is a bit amorphous. The second act revolves around characters from Henrik Ibsen's A Doll's House, which in and of itself is bizarre, as A Doll's House is set in late 19th century Norway. The writers then inject the ghost of Sharon Tate into the plot, who is briefly referenced in the first act as one of many anachronisms during a role play between Lizzie and Bridget. Sharon Tate was an actress and wife to director Roman Polanski. She was murdered with her unborn child and 3 friends in her home in Hollywood by the Manson family in the summer of 1969. Torvald, the husband in A Doll's House, played by Smithson, and Nora, the wife, played by Szadkowski, are visited by Nora's friend Christine, played by Susannah Millonzi, who played Lizzie's stepmother Abby in the first act, and a guy she met the day before, Krogstad, played by Tony Torn, who plays Lizzie's father Andrew in the first act. The two have a ribald discussion about how they met the night before and know they are now pregnant. It's outrageous, but again, absurdly funny. Somehow in this reality, Torvald is haunted by Sharon Tate, played by Knox, who is his mother, somehow. Tate was pregnant at the time she was murdered by the Manson family, but her real son, Paul Polanski, didn't survive. This visitation by Sharon to Torvald is the only truly touching and sincere moments of Fall River Fishing. It has some genuinely delicate acting between Knox and Smithson, which was a bit of a turn considering the absurdist nature of the rest of the play, but it worked, and I liked it. The second act concept is an odd twist to A Doll's House, and in a bizarre way makes the character of Torvald a bit more likable, as we get a twist of an ending that differs from the Ibsen original. I found the design delightful and deliciously macabre, particularly the first act, as the show opens with blood all over the sofa where Andrew was found dead, and all over the bed and floor where Abby is found dead. White stains spatter over the upstage wall, a result from a dining scene which never gets cleaned up, but just builds on more and more layers every performance. Cate McCrea's scenic design and Charlotte Palmer Lane's costume design goes out of its way to be as big as possible given what they had to work with, especially when involving the bloody climax. Fall River Fishing isn't going to be for everyone. It's a bizarre piece that unless you take it at face value, you're going to be scratching your head in confusion as to why people say some of the things they say and do the things they do. But if you roll with the ridiculous nature of the concept, it can be a sometimes uproarious piece of macabre comedy. But I am only one man's opinion, so be sure to leave yours in the comments below. If you wish to see Fall River Fishing, I'll leave a link in the description. You can support my channel by liking, sharing, and subscribing, and click the notification bell to be alerted to future reviews. My next review will be Connecticut Repertory Theater's production of Row. Thank you for watching, and I will see you at the theater.